Hi everyone, it's Kristen. So, since I don't know when I'm going to get Uncanny X-Men 8, which concludes, the four-part Braid on Gray Malkin crossover series, we're gonna do fill-in issues until I get that and other comic books that I'm waiting on. To be honest, I haven't gone through like my comic book collection to see what else I have wanted to do a video on. Because I've been a little bit, behind in stuff, obviously. Um, so I thought about doing this though, just doing a Dazzler, the old series, as fill-ins every so often, because I really enjoyed this series. It was fun. I mean, it was like, uh, what's the word for it? Like kind of hokey, I guess, by today's standards. But it's a fun way to still talk about the X-Men, which of course I love, and Dazzler. I mean, I wouldn't have named my cat after her if she wasn't, one of my favorite characters. And it also is a fun way to talk about other characters. Like here we have Dazzler faced off against Doctor Doom. Um, and well, plus there's the whole One World Under Doom crossover event thing that's happening soon. So here you go, another Doom story. Because oh yeah, and we just talked about Doom the other day because of Storm 3, and I, throw it back to Uncanny X-Men 140. Now I can't remember what the issue is where she first had dinner with Doctor Doom. So anyway, nice little splash page, and it looks like Dazzler's being attacked, and she's like, I can't take much more of this. But really, she's at, the Fantastic Four Baxter building. And she stopped by to see Torch, um, because he was at her first, her first concert, her first nightclub appearance, along with some of the X-Men. And so she came to see him, and while she was there, she just said, "Oh yeah, by the way, Reed Richards, you're super smart. So why don't you just, tell me more about my powers?" So he was testing her powers, because she's like, I don't even, I don't know enough about them yet. I don't know anything about them yet. And so, I mean, okay, so the dynamic between the Fantastic Four is kind of the like whole family dynamic has what has one of the reasons it has been popular. And another reason why the movies haven't done as well. Okay, I will say when Disney did The Incredibles, that family dynamic is exactly what should be captured in um Fantastic Four movie. I feel like because Disney did that, kind of first, then they tried to make it kind of more when they remade Fantastic Four, they tried to make it a little bit more serious, and that just kind of doesn't work because I mean, like Ben and Johnny, they tease each other mercilessly, like Big Brother, like brothers and stuff do. And just, you know, that's what they need to make this movie successful, which I hope it is. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see. So anyway, Ben's like grumbling because he's like, "Why do I have to do chores? Hothead over there doesn't have to do chores." And Sue, she reminds him, "Well, Johnny already did his chores and he wasn't out playing poker all night." And he's still like kind of grumbling and stuff. And then, Ben's kind of given Dazzler a hard time, saying, big deal, how are flashing lights supposed to help in a fight? So she kind of shows him a little bit of her power. He accidentally drops the nullifier on his foot, and for making that comment. And then Johnny's like, well, huh, Dazzler also says, "Well, hey, I held my own against the Enchantress. That was the last issue." Like I said, I still think that would have been a better villain for her most recent um miniseries than what they did. I won't reveal it in case you haven't read it, but I still think that would have been cool because Enchantress is petty and holds a grudge. I feel like it would have been cool to make her the villain of that miniseries. But anyway, I'm not in charge. So, Johnny's like, well, psh, she can't beat me. Like, what can she do against me? So she grabs that fire extinguisher and uses it on him. And Sue is like, that's enough, you know. And she gets startled, Dazzler, so she loses her balance on her skates because she's wearing her skates. And Reed catches her. So the paper that was dropped is talking about Doctor Doom and his jewels that are on display at the UN. And because his country, Latveria, was recently overthrown by someone else. Because Dazzler's like, isn't he the former monarch of some postage stamp company or country? And then she's like, oh, anyway, I have to go meet my manager. I'm running late. So she and the Johnny make plans for next week. And so this is the ambassador to Latveria, and he's like, my country's in shambles. It would be so easy to run away with these jewels, and I'm sure some other country would welcome me, especially if I had all these jewels. And he notices this one in particular that kind of glows. Okay, you should know by now, reading comic books, do not, if a jewel glows, don't touch it. It's usually something bad happens. Yeah, just don't touch it. Leave it for somebody else to touch. I mean, granted, sometimes cool things happen, like you get, Juggernaut's powers, but even that comes at a cost. And then that other guy who found the necklace with the jewel, the wizard Colin Graff, he basically possessed him, took over his body. So anyway, so you gotta think, like, to quote the famous line, "Do you feel lucky?" So you just, yeah, guess take a chance if you want to, but I would just leave it alone. So she's at her manager's office and she's like, "So what do you have for me?" And he's like, "Well, I got you playing a benefit concert, for UNICEF at the UN." And she's like, "Great. How much does it pay?" He's like, "It's for charity. You don't get paid. It's just for exposure." She's like, "Oh, I'm 2 months behind on my rent and my fridge is empty. What am I supposed to do?" And I feel like, okay, this, the next page is kind of random, but I feel like they were making it to where Dazzler was gonna go home, try to make up with her dad, and kind of ask him for help. Because it's been 2 years apparently since they've seen each other, because he wanted her to be a lawyer. And he's a judge and, take after him, and she wants to be a singer. And so basically, he's like, "I'm so glad you're home, and now you can start your real life." She's like, "No, I'm not going to." And he's like, "Fine, then, I don't want to see you again." And she's like, "Fine, I'm not going to. I'm leaving." Anyway, so I feel like that was kind of random that they threw that in, but that's what I feel like they were trying to say is that she was going to go home and ask for help. So then we see Doctor Doom. Oh, okay. Doctor Doom. I love him as a villain. He is just so funny. I mean, just the way, because he's working, in his castle and or a castle because this is not his castle. It's not the castle. Anyway, so his one of his minions comes in and Doom is like, who dare disturbs Doom? Speak quickly or your life is forfeit." I love the way he talks. I mean, he's just so confident, so, self-assured, so like I am the best thing that's ever happened to this world, period. I love it. It's just it makes me, it makes me laugh a little bit because it's a little funny, but I mean that is definitely Doctor Doom. Like that is definitely his personality. So anyway, his minion tells him that the Merlin stone accidentally went with all the jewels to the UN. And so Doom's like, "Oh my gosh, not the Merlin stone." So the ambassador to Latveria, had hired these guys basically to break into the UN and steal the jewels. And they're dressed up as a punk gang. Let me see, what does they say? Yeah, a gang of punk rockers. So no one will know it's them. Makes me think of, Jim and the Holograms, the Misfits. Anyway, so yeah, and they bribed two guards, to let them backstage. And so the Dazzler's not manager, but like his right-hand man who basically looks after Dazzler and kind of is the hey, do what I say kind of guy because this is what Harry Osgood, her manager, wants. So Allison hears a scuffle and outside of her dressing room, and she's like, I better go investigate. So she turns on her radio in her purse, and takes it with her because, she says sound waves or sound music just you know, works better with my powers because it's of its regular rhythms. So she sees the punk rock guys beating up Harry, not Harry, his his muscle. And so she, she zaps them, blinds them with her light. And meanwhile, the first act is going on, and she's backstage, and she has her roller skates on, and she's like, "I'm fast and agile on my roller skates." it was, this was 1981. Disco, had kind of like literally kind of just ended. I'm not positive. I wasn't alive then. But and she remarks like the narrator says, and she bowls into all the guys like a roller derby queen, and there they all go down. And she's like, I don't understand. She talks to the uh her manager's guy and says, what's going on? Like, I don't even, I'm sure they said his name in this issue, but I honestly wasn't paying attention to that. And he's like, those guys said something about the jewels. And Dazzler's like, the jewels? Oh my gosh, I better go see and make sure they're okay. And she's like, they're, regrouping. I don't have enough energy to, fight them again. So she just does one huge blast and she says, go for it. Okay, so when she says go for it, that makes me think of, Spider-Man and his amazing friends in the cartoon. Spider-Man, Iceman, Firestar. They go, Spider-Man, Spider Friends, go for it. That's what it makes me think of. So she goes into the room that the jewels are in and gets hit in the back by something. And she's knocked out, kind of unconscious on the floor. And when she gets up, she sees Doom. And this is a pretty cool splash page, I will say. And she says, oh no, even without the air, the thought bubble, I mean, you don't even need it. You can see like kind of the look of panic on her face. Like she knows, this is not someone that she really wants to mess with. And this basically is just they're wondering where Dazzler is. There's her manager. There's the Human Torch in the audience. He was going to surprise her. And there's Doom helping Dazzler up. And he's like, saying, do not fear. Doom does not make war on helpless civilians. And he's like, you're lucky that I recognized you as, part of the evening's musical, you know, performers. Otherwise, you would have gotten the same treatment as, them. And Dazzler's like, oh my gosh, are they dead? And he says, no, not yet. So basically, Doom, he goes for the case, goes for the Merlin stone. And it's funny because Dazzler's like, and Doom is basically saying, as long as you stay out of my way, we're good. And, Dazzler's like, I want to know what's going on here. And in her thought bubble, she says, he's so awesome, so undeniably self-confident. So, I mean, oh, that reminds me. Okay, in a couple pages before, I forgot to say, they, when she first surprises the guys, the goons, the punk rocker, this guy says, "Holy sucking spit." That is a phrase I have never really heard before, and I might start using that. That's very yeah, like I said, I've never heard that phrase before, but now I think I'm gonna start using that. Anyway, I just thought that was funny. Sorry, random. I know. I bet all of a sudden when I saw her thought bubble that says, "Oh, Doom's so awesome. He's so undeniably self-confident," which he is. Doom thinks he's the best, and he is the best according to Doom. And what other opinion do you need besides Doom's? And then he says, because Allison's like, "Wait, what's going on?" And he says, "Dr. Doom answers to no one. I am beneath, basically he's like, well, yeah, I answered no one, but I'm going to tell you what's going on." So he tells her about the Merlin stone and how these stones give, the owners of them really like enormous power. And he has one, and recently he detected a second one in a fairly close dimension to theirs. So he was going to use the first one in order to pinpoint the location of the second one. And basically he's saying, he should be the only one who has this much power because he's the only one that can, like whip the world into shape. And then basically he's like, all I demand is blind obedience. You know, I mean, he thinks he's right. Yeah, he thinks he's right. He says he seeks power because it's rightfully his, and he alone can bring order to this chaotic world. And all I demand is blind obedience. I mean, that sounds like Doom for sure. Anyway, so Dazzler realizes that if he gets this gem, he'd be even more powerful than before. And she's like, he's gone up against the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. Like, who am I to go against him? But she's like, but I have to try. So she does, and Doom fights back. But her skill and her agileness on her and her speed on her skates helps her dodge it, dodge his lasers. So she manages to disorient him just for a brief moment. And so using the cages or the glass cases, she creates like this laser grid cage. Unfortunately, there was a stray laser and it struck Doom and freed him, from the laser cage. And so then he recovered, I mean, easily, pretty much. And he electrified the floor and basically Dazzler's out cold. So you see him riding off. He takes the Merlin stone and Dazzler because he thinks, you know, I'll make her go get the second Merlin stone. Someone must brave the extreme dangers of interdimensional travel. Someone insequential like yourself. So yeah, he's going to use Dazzler as a pawn, just like he did when he first got the first Merlin stone. He used the Fantastic Four to get it for him. There was something kind of funny in here that about that. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, it's right here. So when they're doing the recap about how he sent the Fantastic Four back in time to get the Merlin Stone for him, but really it ended up being lost in time because of course the Fantastic Four would never give that to him. The little, editor's note says these events occurred in a comic none of you could possibly afford. Fantastic Four #5, budget conscious Louise. So of course this was 1981. And of course that came out, probably 1963. So I just thought it was funny that she put in there that, yeah, none of you can afford that comic now. It's gone. I mean, I don't even know how much it is now. I'm sure it's insanely expensive now. And so if she's saying it back then, can you imagine how much it is now? Crazy. Craziness. I mean, Someone has asked me before, like, if I had a time machine, if I could go back in time, what would I do? I'd buy a bunch of comics, like X-Men, first issue, buy like five of those, and keep one, maybe two, and then sell the rest, or something. I know that's goofy. I mean, it's silly, but you know, or even, well, okay, if I was really smart, I'd go back in time and get Action Comics one and buy like 5 or 10 issues of those, and then keep a couple and then sell the rest. So if I was really smart, I'd do that instead. So anyway, so yeah, so this of course ends on a cliffhanger. So next week we will also, or next time I post one of these videos, I don't know. We'll see what. Like I said, I'm throwing off my schedule because I don't know what's going on now. So next time I'll be in the near future. Sorry, I'll be posting Dazzler number 4 so you can know what happens. More with Doctor Doom. Like I said, I just love his character. He's just kind of a little bit hilarious, a little bit ridiculous. But of course it's Doctor Doom, so it works. And of course now he's like the Sorcerer Supreme, so on top of being, his normal self. So I mean, can you even imagine? So, and like I said, I love this splash page. I think that's really cool. Like I said, you don't even need her thought bubble to know what's going on, like what she thinks. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this comic, this video, and I hope you join me in the future for more videos. And I don't know if you've been watching the saga of Dazzler, my cat, and her two suitors, but yeah, I've been posting, videos of that almost every day because they show up almost every day. They're two strays that I guess knows Dazzler in the window because she likes to get in the window and watch the birds a lot. So I noticed, or I don't know. There's a lot of stray cats in my neighborhood. Um, and so I guess they noticed Dazzler sitting in the window one day and just kind of decided to keep coming by. So we'll see. I mean, it's been entertaining, and I'm happy that they come by, and I feel like I'm gaining their trust. Like if you watch the video from last night or the night before, you see Warren let me sniff his finger, which is huge because he used to get anywhere near him and he just kind of pulled. Longshot is still he's pretty far away from trusting me, I will say, but I think it's getting there. I think he's coming around. So anyway, I will hope you guys will join me in the future. And until next time, bye.